guys, what's going on? It's Ash here coming at you today in Raid Shadow Legends, and it's been a while since I've had my man DeadwoodJedi back on the channel. Deadwood, what's up, bro? How you doing? Welcome back.
I'm doing great, Ash. Thanks for having me, man. Always a pleasure to be here talking with you.
Yeah, man, the last time that you came on, we talked about Clan Boss. It was an over 1 hour long episode, and people loved it, though. People loved, like, our rapport, trying to teach my noob ass, trying to, speed tune, or actually it was the Unkillable team, and that was a lot of fun, though. The whole video took us, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours to record, but we kind of chopped it down like as much as the dry areas as we could. But man, thanks again for doing that. A lot of people love that video in terms of just talking about, it wasn't just Clan Boss, my team. It was about like good champions that people don't recognize for Clan Boss and stuff like that. Today, we have you back on. We're going to talk about like how to, I guess, optimize, but even more than that, Clan Boss. So why don't you, I'm going to throw it to you. First of all, how you doing, man? Like, how are you holding up during COVID and everything like that?
Wow, that's a question I was not anticipating.
Yeah, man, we're going right to the,
hard-hitting interview here.
No big deal.
I mean, I'm doing probably better than most. I mean, obviously, I'm busy. I have something to focus my energy on. This is a whole new business for me. So like, a new career path. So in that sense, I'm doing fantastic, honestly. But it's also been super busy getting, what we're going to be talking about today, my new calculator out and like revamping the website and trying to, get things running on that side has been a little bit stressful, but obviously great. I mean, I'm getting a lot of response. Almost up to 20,000 subscribers on YouTube. So, really happy with like, people's response to things and getting a lot of positive comments on the stuff that I've been putting out there. On a personal note, obviously it's hard. It's like it is for everybody, I can't see family that often.
Yeah.
I live alone, so it's a little bit tougher, but thankfully I have a lot of people out there. And honestly, I spend a lot of time on Twitch, and I think a lot of it is just finding a way to connect with people. And it's, pretty enjoyable way. And, we've built a really nice, wholesome community, which is, one that ribs each other, but, we look after each other too. And so it's been actually really, it's been not a bad pandemic for me, considering that the bar is pretty low.
Yeah,
I think we're doing pretty good over here.
Absolutely. And glad to hear it. And we've been watching you, since we had you on the channel, 5-6 months ago now. Been watching you grow and take off, and one of your passions in the game, and I would say your specialty, is Clan Boss, which is why we invited you again back on the channel now. So I don't know, man, where to start with this. Let's pull up your website, which is the #1 resource for Clan Boss inside the game. It's really not even close, right? In terms of you put, like, to your point, you put so much time and energy and effort into this stuff. Dude, you have a new Clan Boss calculator we're going to talk about today. I'll let you kind of walk us through the website, but before you get to that, I have to ask, like, how much time goes into making a Clan Boss calculator? Where do you even start?
Wow. I mean, the first one was just me on my own with a nice Excel spreadsheet, and took me, I don't know, like 9 months or something to really get to where I thought it should be. And it wasn't until I put it out that we actually perfected it. With the help of many other people. A lot of my clanmates currently, really chimed in and helped out a lot with that. And then, this one, a month or two after I put the original calculator out, I was approached by several people saying, hey, we can build something a little bit better, a little bit more intuitive. And I was like, yeah, let's get to it. And basically, my clanmate Mitch has done just an astounding amount of work on this. We did have some help early on with a few other people, but it ended up just being me and Mitch really putting this thing together. And so I would say about 6-7 months or so of, of work kind of doing this. And, it's not like I'm not making it, millions of dollars over here. I'm not even making, living wage over here.
Yeah.
And Mitch, it's just volunteering his time. So we're putting in whatever time we had, where we can, and putting it together. It took us about 6 months to get this to the stage it's at now. And we still have a lot of stuff we want to do with it. There's a lot of things, a lot of add-ons that we want to, add to it, find ways to make it use affinity, make it, accommodate the stun, and, a whole bunch of other stuff. And not to mention, take this build and put it with the arena calculator and take that to a whole other level. And there's a lot of stuff I want to do. It's just about finding the time for it, which is it's difficult,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a bit of a labor of love. So
yeah, shout out to you and Mitch, and you guys anybody watching right now can support you guys on Patreon as well. You can see the link over here on the website, which will be linked obviously in the show notes below. So why should let me just cut down to the the number one question I probably get here, right, is whenever you guys, and I say you guys in a very affectionate way, meaning the hardcore speed tuning calculator community inside Raid, right? Some people find that intimidating, right? Like, why do I need to use calculators to do X, Y, or Z? I just want to play the game. So what would be your response to those kind of people, who are skeptical of having to use a bunch of additional resources when they just want to enjoy the game and have some fun?
Of course, of course. Well, I would say, first thing I'm going to say is kind of my philosophy just on gaming in general. Your fun is your fun. So, like, if this doesn't interest you at all, man, I'm okay with that. You're okay with that. Whatever you find to be enjoyable, do it. I just did a video the other day of just doing a pure speed team where you just make your champions as fast as possible and get them to run. But no matter how you're approaching it, there's certain things that are going to make your runs better, right? Mm-hmm. So making sure that you have all the right debuffs in your team, making sure that you have champions that can protect you, whether that's ally protection or shields or whatever, those things are going to improve your run, and that's going to get you more damage, which is going to mean more success, and generally that means more fun for you. Mm-hmm. Well, speed tuning is the ultimate way to maximize what your champions have, and that's really what speed tuning is. Speed tuning isn't about getting your champions just to the right speed. What speed tuning is yes, you do get your champions to a particular speed, but you do that so that their skills blend to the maximum efficiency. That's all it is. The way I like to look at it really is like a problem solving. Mm-hmm. I have this handful of champions and this handful of gear, and I want to find the best way to make them work so I can do the most damage possible. It's like a puzzle, right? And so that's where I get my enjoyment out of it. Now, I know a lot of people don't get as much enjoyment out of trying to solve that puzzle. That's okay. The calculator can still be useful for you, and my website's still going to be useful for you. If you click that speed tune link up at the top there, the tab up at the top, I'm sorry. Yes, right there. It's going to take you to a variety of different speed tunes that I have accumulated over the last year, and I kind of manage in my website. So if you hit any of those, like unkillable, it also has some like terms and stuff to clarify some things, but like hit unkillable there, it's going to bring up a list of unkillable teams that we've found over the last 8-9 months here.
Amazing
and
stuff,
you can click,
man. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and you can click on one of those things, and it's going to give you the build right there. It'll give you the speeds you need. It'll give you whatever information you need to set it up. Now, I'm not saying it's always perfect. Sometimes I have more information on some builds than I do on others, but it's going to give you everything you need to be able to build that. And then you take those numbers and you go to the calculator and just double check and make sure everything works. Now, this is a game of resources, and you're saying, why should I use these extra resources and stuff to build this, to make my team different if I just want to play? The reason is because the calculator is going to save you millions upon millions upon millions of silver. And it's going to save you hundreds of gems because you're not going to have to.
Deadwood.
This is what I'm talking about. Yeah. Because you don't have to constantly re-gear. You don't have to constantly exit out of your clan boss runs or fail your clan boss runs because it didn't work. What the best part about the calculator is it gives you a chance to see it before you do it. So if you go up to the tab where it says Clan Boss Calculator, it'll take you directly to it, and then you can just start filling in your team and making it work. So like you're here at the page, right? The ground page. Click on that, brings you right in here. Got a little pop-up with all my socials there, one of my videos that kind of a tutorial kind of explains how the calculator works. Mm-hmm. And then this is the calculator. And I know it looks intimidating, but if you break it down bit by bit, it's actually pretty easy to figure out. So on the left side, you have all the champions, right? You see you have the clan boss difficulty that has all the different difficulties. So whatever level clan boss you're facing, you can put that in, right? It doesn't matter. It'll change the speed automatically for you. You can have the champions there. We have a full list of all the champions in the game in the drop-down menu. So all you have to do is click on that, find the champion you want, or you can type in the name if you know which kind of champion you want to use. And then you just type in the speed to the left there, and it'll start to populate. And so like when you're just getting started, all you have to do, put your 5 champions in and put in their speeds. And everything, you'll at least get a good idea of how things work. Now, people end up, it can get a little bit more intricate in, some champions have speed skills like Apothecary there that can always, alter like the turn order of of the team and champions and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Some champions prioritize different skills over others. So there is some, it's a calculator. It's not going to think for you. Sure. But it does a lot of the heavy lifting. And you can see already when you drop Apothecary in there, his skills populate automatically. If you change Apothecary to like Arbiter, you'll see her skills will populate automatically. So it's going to populate a lot of the stuff that you need already. And you can even see her A3 skill is prioritized over her A4 skill, just like in the game. So I've tried to make as many of those shortcuts for you where I can. And it's all right there. And obviously it's all changeable, right? If you haven't booked a champion, you can change the cooldown. If you find the priorities a little off, you can change that for yourself. So you can manipulate it how you like, and you can see the speeds change. You change clan boss difficulties.
Yeah.
But the first step, if you don't mind, Ash, just choose 5 champions and start putting in some speeds, and then from there we can go.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so guys, we're back. I just put in my team. I've got Skullcrusher, I've got Razin, I've got Bulwark, Kale, and Tyrell. Deadwood, so, okay, I entered in their speeds. I basically took my clan boss team, hypothetically, entered them into your calculator here. Now I'm a little bit intimidated by all this stuff. Tell me, what am I looking for here? Like what should I, draw my attention to at this point?
Absolutely. So on the right, you're going to see all the speeds, right? You see that's going to dictate all the turn order stuff right there. So obviously all of our champions are slower than the clan boss. If we're trying to fight Ultra Nightmare Clan Boss, the Ultra Nightmare Clan Boss moves at 190 speed. We're all under that. So on turn 0, nobody goes. So the clan boss takes their first turn. So turn count 1 is when our first champion goes. In this case, it's our fastest champion.
And if I was at like 200 speed here, you'll see Skullcrusher will go right there.
Exactly. Right. You got it. So you can see 185 right there. He's going to use his most prioritized skill, the A2 skill first, and you can see that green buff right there goes up. This does have buff tracking, so you can actually see what your champions are doing. And that unkillable goes up, and you can see everybody's others' turns happen after that, and they now have that ally protection and counterattack that Skullcrusher put on them. The green indicates a buff is being freshly placed. A blue, hard blue like that indicates that the champion's starting with that buff, and they're going to end their turn with that buff. And then a faded blue, you'll see on turn count 2, is that buff is falling off. Okay. Now, look, I know there's a lot of colors, and there's a lot of stuff going on there, so it can be a bit confusing. But what's happening here is if you look at the run from left to right, you're going to see a full cycle of the clan boss. And I consider a full cycle all 3 of their attacks, right?
AoE,
the first AoE,
yep.
And then you got it. So if you look from left to right, you're going to see a full cycle of your team. And then if you look top to bottom, vertically, you're going to see every one of those attacks. So if you follow turn count 3, turn count 6, those are all the attacks that are happening after the stun and before the AoE 1. So when you're trying to speed tune your team, the real goal is to have the right skills happen at the right time. You want counterattack before all the AoE so that everybody can counterattack, right? The stun isn't as helpful with that. If you're trying to block the debuffs, then you want that to happen right before like for Affinity Clan Boss, you want that to happen right before AoE 2. If you're just trying to block the stun, you want block debuffs up right before the stun. And by looking at those vertically, you can see, hey, these skills are happening at the right time. Or you can look at it horizontally and see, is this happening the same way every time within a full cycle? And we're maximizing the damage that we can do there. So this team
is screwed. And you wouldn't, because you can see my AoE 1s, my team's always naked. There's no,
It's what I would say is not optimal, right?
Yes.
And so this is the beauty of the calculator, right? All we have to do is make a small change to the speed, and we're able to increase our damage by several million. If every champion can get a whole extra attack in per cycle, that's going to be massive to our end result. This is why counterattack champions are so great, obviously.
Yeah.
So all we have to do is we have to figure out a way to get Skullcrusher to go last in the turn order. Doesn't necessarily mean the slowest champion. What we're talking about is last in the turn order. So if we go to Skullcrusher, let's go ahead and make him the slowest champion. If we change his speed from 185 to 172, for example, we'll see all of a sudden he does go last. Now, you can see the counterattacks coming up right before the AoE 2. That's not where we want it. So we see the skill that he has there. If we increase the delay on that skill, and that's basically saying he's not going to use that skill for X number of turns, and then after that point, he'll use it regularly. So if we put that delay up to 2, on that A2 skill of Skullcrushers, all of a sudden you're going to see that he now procs a counterattack right before the first AoE. You can see all those champions begin their turn with it, which means they had it before the clan boss attack. They end their turn with it, which means they're going to have it up before the AoE 2 skill. And that's how you maximize the counterattack damage from Skull Crusher.
Boom, boom, boom.
Now
Wow.
here's the thing, Ash.
Yeah.
So, but here's the thing, right? We all have different accounts. We all have different speeds. We all have different champions. So yes, this is awesome with this one, but you know, maybe you have different champions. That's okay. If I wanted to maximize this, maybe I have different kinds of gear. Maybe I can actually make my Skull Crusher a little faster, or I want counterattack right from turn 1.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you go ahead and switch Skull Crusher's speed to 192, and we'll see
Okay.
exactly what happens here. So, and take the delay down to 0.
Okay.
So if you go back up to the top, turn
Yep.
count 0, look, Skull Crusher goes first, places the counterattack, and again, it stays up for the AoE 1 and AoE 2. And if you continue to look at, we just look at that vertical column there, you can see he's going last every time and placing that counterattack right before the AoE 1. And this is the uniqueness of the way turn meter and speed works in this game, is that you can manipulate it and get similar results at different speeds. You can have speed ranges that are going to get you similar results. And so we've accumulated, obviously, a lot of those speed tunes on the website, but the best part is the calculator allows you to mess around and figure out what's going to be best for you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
if we want to... Oh, yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
If we want to take this to another level, right?
Yeah.
And this is like, you know, as you start going further and further, things like affinities start to matter. So a lot of times what people like to do is they'll bring in a Sepulchre Sentinel or a Duchess to block the debuffs, right? That's hard because you want to block both the affinity debuffs, like the slow from a green clan boss, right before AoE 2, as well as the stun. But we can do that by speed tuning. If we go down and we replace our Tayrel with Sepulchre Sentinel, so we still have a decreased attack champion, right? We replace him with Sepulchre Sentinel. So if we make Sepulchre Sentinel, I think it's 239 speed. And as you can see right there, Sepulchre is taking a double turn between the AoEs right before AoE 2.
Yep.
And if we delay her A2 ability by 1 turn, she's going to put block debuffs up right before the affinity clan boss hits and put the affinity debuff on us so we don't get slowed against the green clan boss, right? And then that's going to last. You can see all the champions are going to have that on themselves before the stun and after the stun as well. So that allows us to not only have counterattack for both attacks, but allows us to have block debuffs up for all debuffs the clan boss can do. And this is maximizing the abilities of our champions. That's the whole point of speed tuning, right? Just maximize what your champions can do. This is a way to do that.
Is there a way also to track debuffs to like optimize when your debuffers are going to be or how fast they should be going?
Well, these are one of the things that we want to incorporate in the future, right?
Cool.
Tracking the debuffs is always a little difficult because there's usually a percentage chance that it lands.
Sure.
The clan boss can only have so many debuffs on, so it can be a little bit tricky. But
first order business. Yeah, make sure that your buffs are there when you need them.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, I mean, the point of this is obviously maximizing our skills. You do still have to think a little bit. So you're going to have to be aware that your team still needs a decreased attack champion. You still want a decreased defense and weakened champion. You still want poisons for your champions. Those are things you're just going to naturally have to kind of think about and consider when you're building your team. Mm-hmm. This is to maximize the defensive skills that you bring to the table. And make that work. This is really helpful for like unkillable teams because you can actually track when the unkillable buffs happen.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
just really helpful.
Yeah, when you say delay, just for viewers who have never, done any sort of a speed tuning or unkillable comp, it means that when you're starting out the entire battle, you're going manual and not using their prioritized skill.
Well, a lot of times, obviously you can just toss in champions at whatever speed, click auto, and watch them run, right?
Sure.
But when we're trying to do manual, like when you're trying to do something like this, where specifically I need to block certain buffs or debuffs, or I need to get, certain buffs up at a certain time, then for stuff like that, you need to be tuned. You need to like get it set up and have it run in specific order. Mm-hmm. And so typically speed tunes will start to sync where you can hit auto and it'll run the same from there on. Sometime before turn 9 or so, right?
Okay.
So you usually have 1, 2, and sometimes 3 cycles of manual setup just to get yourself into tune. Mm-hmm. Like you can see this build with Sepulchre Sentinel there, it doesn't sync until turn 6 there, right? At that point, from then on, it's going to be the same every single time, right? But you can see the cycle right before turn 6 that it is just a little bit off, where Sepulchre Sentinel takes her double turn on turn 3 as opposed to turn 4 where you'd want her to.
Okay.
So it does take a little bit of manipulation.
Sure.
But it's, it's very much that those are simple things that you can do just to set it up and get it into it. And then from there on, you're clicking auto. So instead of having a manual 30 turns, you're manualing 6 or 7, and then you're doing auto for, all 50 million damage that everybody has a team that can do.
Absolutely. So run down maybe some best practices in terms of, okay, I put in my team, let's say I just kind of started Nightmare Clan Boss or something like that. So I put in my team. I'm still a little bit intimidated, but now we kind of get it, in terms of how the calculator works. So what are some things that I should be looking out for? Let's say I don't have Skull Crusher. Let's just say this is like Apothecary or something.
Yeah, sure.
What should I be looking out for here when speed tuning like my first team?
Yeah, well, I mean, when you're speed tuning your first team, obviously, look at the speed tunes on the website.
Yeah,
the standard are the simplest ones, right? Where everybody just goes at a 1-1 ratio. If you have the champions and you have the gear to get to the right speeds, then you can start to do some more complex stuff. But the first thing you're going to want to look at, honestly, are the champions that you have, right? So look at the champions you have and figure out how often do their skills work. Sepulchre Sentinel's block debuffs and increased defense buff is on a 4-turn cooldown. So you want to put Sepulchre Sentinel at a 4-3 ratio if possible. And I should probably explain that. 4-3 ratio is the amount of attacks your champions take to the amount of attacks the clan boss champion takes. So if you consider a full cycle is all the clan boss's skills, it's 3 different skills. A 4-3 ratio would mean your Sepulchre Sentinel is taking 4 attacks for every 3 attacks the clan boss takes, basically going an extra turn during a full cycle. And that allows, Sepulchre Sentinel to use their skills every cycle, right? It helps it be a little bit more regular.
Okay.
One of the advantages of champions like Rosin is all of his skills, all the important skills are on 3-turn cycles, right? His decreased defense and weakens on 3-turn cycles. So you only have to basically get him an equivalent speed with the clan boss, and he'll be consistent every time. So you can be sure to put up the right debuffs or the right buffs, depending on the champion you're using, at the right time.
Okay. So if I go to
so
this,
that's the first thing.
Yeah. If I go to I'm at your 4-3,
Sure.
section right now, and you have the speeds listed like very conveniently right here. So how would a new player identify which champion should fall under each role, speed role here?
Well, I generally have some guidance under there, some explanation. So that's going to give you a good idea of what's happening. And usually the titles give a clear indication of what's going on with those teams. Now you can see if a champ takes a double turn, they're probably going to be moving at a 4-3 ratio, right? And so that's a champ that you want. Oh, this guy has a 4-turn cooldown. My Duchess,
Perfect. And you're thinking
Sepulchre
everything
Sentinel.
in 3 turns because that's the clan boss.
Exactly.
Yeah, got you.
Exactly. Everything kind of rotates around that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we've built some crazy teams like the one we built together before. It's a 2-1 ratio, right?
Still
We're
loving that
taking
team.
2 turns,
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But we're taking 2 turns for every 1 the clan boss takes. And so that's just that's really maximizing our damage because we're just doubling the amount of attacks we could get.
Sure.
A 4-3 is maximizing the skills of our champions, which is a little bit different, but still extremely, extremely effective. And so you can use speed champion, like all the speed buffs and stuff are in the calculator too. You have Painkeeper's cooldowns are in this calculator.
Perfect.
You want to the unkillable champions; those
And
are
that
in here.
could be
So you can come up with
difficult to track. A champion like Painkeeper. Like, how would you ever do that without a calculator?
Exactly. And it's so you have so many options because you can really experiment and play around. Like I'll be honest, I spent a lot of time just playing with the calculator without having some of the champs.
Just to see what would
I did
happen.
that for a long time.
Yeah.
Just to see what can I come up with? What would be a little bit different? What would be fun to do? Maybe there's an unkillable team I could mess around with and I can just play around and look at it. And all of those builds that are there, those work. So those, maybe they aren't the build you want to do, but they can be a foundation to give you like base speeds to kind of work from. And then you can experiment. And then as you experiment, you understand a little bit more of how the calculator works and the nuances of the champions. But of course, that's not for everybody, right? For most of you, you're just probably going to want to take those speeds, plug them into the calculator, and then get your champions to those speeds. Now, there is one thing you definitely need to do when you're looking, if you're inputting champions in this, something you absolutely have to do is with the speeds. If you click on one of the speeds for any of the champions, doesn't matter which one, you'll see there's a box up top that says base speeds. That's going to fill in automatically. That's the base speed of your champion. And it affects things like speed aura, speed sets, all that is affected by base speed. Now, if your champion isn't fully ascended, fully booked, fully leveled, not booked, but ascended or leveled, that base speed could be a little different, and you can change that to accommodate you. But those base speeds, the skills and stuff, are for champions that are fully ascended, leveled, and booked. But the sets here is really important because the way the game does it with these speed sets, perception sets, swift parry sets, they round up those numbers for the display in game. So if you have a champion in 3 speed sets and he says his speed is 192, it's probably not actually 192.
Got you. See, 191.72. Got you.
Exactly. But the game will round that up. So, and if you click the Lure Steel mastery, that's a mastery that will affect that as well. That will also alternate the speed. And you actually might be wondering, wait a minute, I put 3 speed sets
That's
on,
what I was
put
just
Lure Steel
thinking
on.
right now. I'm like, wait a second here.
Those are supposed to add speed, right? Why is the speed going lower? It's because the speed of your champion's already set. You already filled in the total speed of your champion. That isn't actually changing. What we're trying to do is we're trying to calculate the true speed of that champion, right? We're trying to figure out what the actual speed in game is. What you're putting in when you put in 192 is the speed it's showing you. That's the displayed speed.
Got you.
What we're doing by putting in the sets in the Lure of Steel is we're figuring out what is the actual speed, the true speed of this champion that's being rounded up or rounded down. So
that makes sense.
It's always going to be within 1 speed of the true speed, right? It's always going to be within 1 speed of 192, higher or lower. But depending on the sets you put on, it'll either round it up or round it down in game. So that's the only.
Shout out to
caveat,
you and Mitch for figuring true speed out. Good God.
Interesting. True speed actually was figured out by one of my clanmates, Napoleon Camembert. Kind of figured out a lot of that with the speed sets and how it rounds.
Shout out to Napoleon. Good God, that's crazy.
It does some weird stuff.
That's crazy stuff to account for, and that's why my viewers don't have to do the work now. You can just go to the calculator does all the work. You know, it's beautiful.
So I have to. There's one other thing that you will want to check before you actually, when you're building your teams. There's 2 reasons why speed tunes will mess up. The calculator is really accurate.
Masteries, right?
It's pretty much 100% accurate. You got it. It's masteries. But the calculator is 100% accurate. I would say 99.99% accurate, right?
Yeah.
If there's an error, it is so out of the blue. It's just something we miss, and we end up fixing it right away. So if it works in the calculator, and it's not working in game, it's always one of 3 things, right? So it's fortuitous you have Painkeeper in there. Painkeeper has a turn meter boost as one of her skills. It's her A1 ability. So if you have a champion that has a turn meter boost, or like a Valkyrie that gets a turn meter boost due to affinity, if you're not using the skills in the proper way, or you're using a Valkyrie who that boost isn't like in the calculator right now, if you're using someone like that and you're using the skills in the wrong order, that might throw things off. Okay? It's very common with a Painkeeper. Sometimes she won't use her A2 ability if there's not enough healing to actually be done on your team.
Okay.
And that can throw a team off. So those are things to be aware of.
Okay.
But that's a pretty niche kind of case.
Sure.
What's more common is that you haven't put in the true speed. So like instead of putting in the speed sets for Painkeeper, you just put in 192, and that little bit of a fraction speed is enough to throw off the composition. Or something else that might be the case are your masteries. And there's
it's always the masteries, man.
It's always the masteries. There's basically 4 masteries that you need to be aware of when it comes to speed tuning: Arcane Celerity, Rapid Response, Cycle of Magic, and Cycle of Vengeance, or Cycle of Revenge, I think it is. And basically those can really throw off your speed tune. The reason why Cycle of Revenge is in the defensive tree, it's the only one in the defensive tree you have to be aware of. But Cycle of Revenge will give you a turn meter boost when like you or your allies are hit and crit. That will obviously throw things off. The more common ones are Arcane Celerity and Rapid Response, which will give you a turn meter boost either when a buff that's on you that you've put on falls off, or when a debuff that you've put on falls off. That'll give you a turn meter boost, and that will definitely screw you up. And then Cycle of Magic can change up, can accelerate the cooldown of your skills. And that will throw things off if you're using champions that do particular buffs that you need, like unkillable buffs, obviously, or turn meter buffs. That can throw it off.
What about Lord of Steel? Do you recommend, because to me, I mean, I see some people say don't even bother with Lord of Steel for clan boss because it can get confusing or it can kind of throw things off just enough. And some people say, it's not a big deal, especially with the calculator. What do you feel?
I'll say this: is a toggle too confusing? If a toggle's not too confusing,
Yes.
use Lore of Steel.
Got you.
Because, I mean, that's literally it, right? You need to plug these. Like, this should be the regular thing people do, is just plug in the numbers in the calculator before they build their team. All it is it's adding speed to your build, right?
Boom. That was confusing. That was confusing.
Right? It's real hard.
Yeah.
But like Lore of Steel won't screw up your speed tune. All it does is add speed to your champion.
Yeah.
So if you need more speed, Lore of Steel's an excellent thing to take. It's just going to change the true speed number, right?
Sure.
But in a practical sense, what is it actually doing? It's adding speed to your build. Yeah. Now, obviously, maybe you can't, you have to get to a particular speed to make it work, but that's with or without Lore of Steel. Lore of Steel is just giving you more speed. So as long as you take that into account, it's totally fine to use. In fact, I recommend using it. The problem where people get where people screw up is they don't factor that in when using the calculator.
Yeah.
And by not factoring in, all of a sudden the speed's different.
Of course.
And that little bit of speed can affect things, right?
Sure. Hey, on the tier 6 support, timely intervention versus oppressor. Obviously these are not incredibly popular masteries. I mean, especially oppressor. What are your thoughts on these masteries? Obviously they'll screw up, a speed tune, but what else, in general? Have you put any thought into these two masteries just in general?
I haven't put a ton of thought into them. I generally find some of the other tier 6 masteries to be better and more valuable. That said, anytime you're using a debuff champion or a buff champion for anything basically outside of clan boss, anything that doesn't need to be tuned, right? Yeah. Most dungeon stuff, Doom Tower, Arena, anytime you get more turn meter, it's always a good thing, right? You want to go as fast as possible. And this is the hard part with clan boss, is that the masteries you want to use for clan boss aren't the same masteries you want to use for other content. Yeah. And that makes it difficult, because you end up having to gear certain champions particularly for clan boss. Which is a little bit, it's a little bit frustrating, but you got to recognize that. If you run a pure speed team in clan boss, like, these are great masteries,
Sure, doesn't
the
matter,
more turn, the better. But when you're trying to speed tune, it's limiting.
A couple rapid fire questions before we let you go, Deadwood. First of all, great job on the calculator. Your website in general, I've used it so many times. Most of the time when I feel like I screwed something up, I'm like, oh crap, it's not working. Gotta go back to the calculator or whatever. But also, what are your favorite builds lately in terms of, like, what is the current zeitgeist of clan boss meta? Has it changed much in the 6 months since we had you on last? Do you have any additional thoughts on either interesting champions or interesting compositions that have kind of sprouted up in the meta the last few months?
Well, there's definitely been, I mean, the Bat Eater composition is still the
best
to use.
Okay,
it's still the best, bar none.
I did an updated video on that. I'm not sure if you saw it. I one keyed finally. Thank you.
Nice, excellent work. I still have yet to get to that level. I'm still waiting for my Draco.
It's all the Draco in Relentless, man.
I hear it's supposed to be coming in pretty shortly. Just waiting for the delivery. But
Clarium. Hello.
But what was I gonna say? The Bat Eater's by far the best composition. However, with the calculator, with the new champions kind of coming into the game, we are seeing a lot more experimentation, a lot more a variety of builds. I've been seeing. I saw someone actually sent me a single Warcaster Batman team, where you have I think it's a Warcaster and a Renegade, and you're able to stay unkillable. I've seen similar stuff with a Sir Nicholas. So you're seeing some really creative compositions out there start to come about, as this makes it a lot easier to play around with things and experiment. And of course, I don't know if you've seen, but there is a new world record out there, guys.
What is it?
We're getting close to the 200 million mark.
That's insane, man.
Yeah. So I don't know if I should spoil it, but Victor TES, if you guys have a chance, he's a Spanish streamer, right? But if you have a chance, go check out his stream. As he's been testing it's like a double Krisk 2-1 clan boss team, and I think he just eclipsed 190 million. Sent me a little screenshot of that.
Oh my
quick
word.
Spoiler. I cannot tell you how excited I am to see this video, because I just want to see the ridiculousness of it. I mean, I've been talking with them, so I have an idea of how it works, but it is a bonkers team. Dude. But that's kind of where we're at. This is the kind of stuff you can do when you really speed tune a team. I do want to point out really quick before we move too far along. If you guys have questions about how to use a calculator, that help tab up at the top is going to be your best friend. That help tab has I put together a step-by-step guide. Not only is the video tutorial there that comes up with the pop-up when you open the calculator, but there's some general guidance of how to use it, things to watch out for like extra turns, cooldown
Oh yeah,
resets,
this is
the
long. Yeah, a lot of
masteries,
information here. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But there's also a step-by-step guide with some visual aids explaining how
Wow,
the
dude.
calculator works and how to go through it. It took me a long time to put
You
together.
put some
And
time into this, man.
yeah, it's
Kudos.
my
Yeah.
baby. It's my baby.
Yeah, I love it.
There's also special champions that, not everybody's skills are able to be in there. Like, not all of Ragnar's stuff is there. Not all of Anax's stuff is in there.
Hmm.
So there is some stuff you're going to have to accommodate as well. So, reading through that is really helpful just to have an idea of how to use the calculator itself. And also, I should point out, I think one more thing we didn't hit is that there is also a save and share feature with the calculator. It is I now the
I'm gonna
first
log
calculator
in.
was
Yep.
completely yeah, the first calculator was completely free, and I wanted to leave it that way, right? I want to make sure that people have access to this because it was community driven, and I want to keep it out there for the community. But obviously, putting 6 months of time and effort into this is exhausting, and I can't do this alone. So, I'm trying to not really recoup, but continue to fund it so I can keep it updated
Sure.
with all the new champions and continue to
It's a
add
lot of
new
work.
things.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, the login is restricted to those that are Patreon subscribers at a Calculator Cowboy level or above, and tier 2 Twitch subscribers. So if you guys sign up for those, you'll get access to this, and it allows you to save what it'll do is it'll create a unique URL of this composition, and it'll save it. And you can see the build that is on the screen right now is one I saved, and I took that unique URL. I just gave it to Ash. He's able to click on it, and the full composition pops up for him right there.
Boom. Yeah.
And so it's a great way to like experiment, to share your comps and get ideas from other people, to get advice on it. And any new features that are coming down the road, like affinity for the clan boss, like dealing with the stun for the clan boss, all that stuff, it's going to be included in that price. So it'll always be, something that you have as long as you're subscribed at that level. So want to let people know about that. I know it's not for everybody, and that is why the majority of this, everything that you enjoyed about the previous calculator is still available now without having to be a subscriber. But this is like, it gives you a little bit more. It should make it a little bit easier, especially going on in the future when we add more stuff to it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I
bring
love
it
that.
back.
And obviously, supporting you guys is something that makes a lot of sense. Everything that you guys do for the community, like going through all the time to, like you said, to update all this information as well. And speaking of updating the information, another question is: out of all kind of the new champions, there's been a ton of new champions added. Do you have a favorite in terms of overall potential for clan boss? Like, what do you think of like Nekret the Great, like all those Veils, ally attack type things? Is there some potential there, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, Nekret's good. I tested him a little bit. I think I did a video on him like a couple weeks ago. He's good for clan boss, but he's not great for clan boss. And he's got some really cool, unique stuff, but because it's all single target, it's not something you can really build around, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love the ally attack feature, but he himself doesn't hit especially hard. So it's not quite as useful as I'd like it to be. But he's like a really cool champion.
So who are you
like,
really excited about then?
It's almost like, who cares, right?
Yeah.
So obviously there's two champions I'm really excited about that I'm really struggling to figure out how to tune with and are going to be really unique champions. Ragnar, obviously, that from the Pixniel fusion, is a really unique dwarf, but he's got a weird thing with his skill cooldowns all based off the HP loss, and so he's very difficult to tune. It's possible. I haven't figured it out personally, but I kind of put that together, and he's good, but he's going to be a little bit difficult, especially right off the bat here. The other champion I'm really interested in, I just put a video. I actually have a video on Ragnar coming out tomorrow.
Awesome.
But I have a video on Anax I just put out yesterday.
Yeah.
And that one, I think Anax is just a fantastic clan boss champion as well. Both these guys are awesome for clan boss. It's just they have unique mechanics that make them very difficult to tune, and so you're going to need to use them in very unique builds. Neither of these guys are going to be able to be used in the Bat Eater composition currently as set up, although I do have some one of my mods and a couple of my clanmates have figured out how to use Anax in the Bat Eater composition, so I'm actually excited to put a video out of that so I can kind of spread that work. He's really good, hits very hard, puts up all the debuffs you want, including some poisons. Like he's a great champion.
Okay.
So those are two champions that are amazingly good.
Yeah, I love when you take champions that aren't super popular and find like a ton of usage for them in clan boss. That's my favorite thing that you could do, What about that Urhos dude? The Soul Cage or whatever, like the big poison guy.
Well, boy, I'm excited to be able to get him. It's going to be another three
Yeah,
months
right.
for anybody to pull
Yeah,
him out. But
yeah. Some
man,
potential
when
there.
we do, I'm
Yeah.
really excited about him. I'm excited actually. Next month or so, we should be able to get the Archmage.
Archmage
Should be
helmet,
coming
yeah.
up pretty soon.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to see what builds people can come up with him. The other champion I do want to point out, and I think this might be the best right now. I think is the best new clan boss champion is going to be Farrakhan the Fat. That dude,
Okay, the Fat Man.
incredible buffs. He gives you increased crit rate and increased crit damage, which are huge. Ally attack. He hits decently hard, and he brings utility because he brings decreased defense with him. Not to mention some poisons, HP burn. Like the dude's good. Like he's built for clan boss, and he is fantastic. I did a video on him a couple weeks back, or maybe a week or so back, and he is just phenomenal. Like really, if you want to use him in clan boss, you're gonna be very, very happy about that.
Awesome. Okay.
He's a really good champion for that, and you don't have to deal with any weird turn meter issues. Which is kind of the best part about him. So yeah, I think those three specifically are the most interesting. Two of them are going to take a lot of work to be able to tune, right? To put in the existing tunes we have or create a unique tune around them. And like in a practical sense, I don't know how worth it that can be. It just depends on the champions you have, right? But Farrakhan, you can drop in, man. He's going to be phenomenal. In a lot of respects, I mean, I think he might be the new... I don't know that he's the best ally attack champion in the game, but he's up there. I think equivalent to Kreela, equivalent to Longbeard, and you can use him in Arena, in a Blender comp to really good effect, or you can use him in Clan Boss to really good effect too. He's phenomenal. Yeah.
I haven't pulled him yet. I hope I do though. Hope I do. I'll do a guide on him for sure.
I haven't pulled any of these.
Yeah.
I don't have any of them.
You don't have any of the new champs at all? No, nobody?
I don't have Anax, I don't have Ragnar, and I don't have Farrakhan the Fat. I don't have any of the clan boss champions.
Okay.
I have a couple of other ones. But
who do you have? Who's your favorite out of the other ones? Anybody?
I got Chancellor Yazin and I got Vaga. I'm still leveling them up.
Yeah.
I haven't fully dove in. None of them are screaming to me like I wanna get into these real bad.
Yeah.
But I've been really happy with the new champions. I don't know about you.
Ugo's where it's
I think
at.
they've been
I
doing
think the
a really
new champions
good job.
are amazing. I think Ugo is my favorite out of all the champs, but there's a lot of good decreased defense. Armina is really good too. I like how they have these 3-turn decreased defense champions to add something else to the table too, whether it's turn meter or whether it's block buffs, whatever it may be. So I think that
I agree.
To your point, I think that this last batch of champions is better than they've ever released, especially non-legendaries. Like they went hard on the epics, and I really like that.
I do too. It's so hard in this game. There's so many champions, and it's so hard to pull the right ones.
Yeah.
And it's nice. It's nice to have some options for people. You know what I mean? Like not everybody is able to wail out on the game, but you can still have fun, even being a free-to-play player.
100%.
But it's really hard when you're not getting anybody that can do certain things for you. And so, like having the more options, more variety, I think is really good. And I really, honestly, big commendation to Plarium for putting these kind of champions out there. I think this is great for the community. Really.
100%. Now we just need more viable rares, like Frozen Banshee-esque, to add to the game.
Yeah.
And now we're cooking, But hey, I have one last question to ask you before we let you go. Thanks for being so generous with your time. It's going to be another close to hour-long video, Deadwood. But I really enjoyed the chat, and I have to ask kind of a curveball at you. The last question is, what do you, and maybe you've never thought about this, or I have no idea, but what do you want to see out of the Hydra clan boss? The ETA, who knows when it's going to be, but I did have a Cirilla interview, and she said hopefully towards the end of 2021. So what are you looking for on a new clan boss?
Boy, yeah. Definitely looking forward to something on this. Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you think that, let me ask you a more pointed question. Do you think that unkillables and speed tuned should always be a core component of any clan boss they add to the game? Or do you think that, hey, we have one clan boss for that already, let's try different stuff?
I don't mind having, I love speed tuning.
Yes.
I think that is a part of the game that should never leave.
Yeah.
Because literally all it is just maximizing the efficiency of your champions. I think that's a good thing, right? Yeah. You can always do random, but it's nice to be able to not have to do random. Unkillable, I would not. I don't know that I want to say that I would prefer it to not be a factor, to not be a viable thing, but I would not be opposed to it not being a viable thing. Because I think that it doesn't. Here's the thing: whether you use unkillable teams or not, whether they exist in the game or not, you can still do non-unkillable teams, right?
Sure.
They maybe don't have the same ceiling, or it's just a different ceiling, or you need different champions. Like these record-setting builds that Victor is putting out, they're not unkillable teams.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's not like it's the best possible damage. They're the most convenient is really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And so like, and I don't have a problem with that. Because I think that's good for people. Like the rewards we get from clan boss are so helpful as far as advancing the game, and I think that's something that should be accessible to people at a certain level, right? But it would be nice to not have to rely on that so much. But you know, the more I've always been very anti-unkillable teams because it just doesn't hit my personal sense of, you know, aesthetic, right?
Yeah.
But the more I've done them, the more I've built them, the more I appreciate kind of what that is. It's the same thing. You're maximizing what your champions can bring. Yeah. If your only legendary champion is a Roshguard the Tower, then hell yeah, you should be doing an unkillable team.
Yeah, right.
Why wouldn't you do that?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I can't hate on that. And I kind of feel that way with the Hydra clan boss. You know, whatever that may be, I don't have a problem if they, you know, have mechanics to push through that. I think that's not a bad thing for the game. But I also don't have a problem if they don't, because I feel like, you know, you're still doing the best to maximize what your teams can do. There's going to be, you know, I think, you know, what I would like to see from the Hydra clan boss is different mechanics in general, finding different ways to have to deal with it, whether that means like if it's a Hydra clan boss, whether that means each head is moving at a different speed, each head brings a different skill, or if they, you know, they all are attacking at the same time. Like I don't really, they're all different affinities. I don't particularly care which route they go with that. I just want something different.
All of those ideas sound pretty awesome, by the way. You know, the different affinity heads or the different speeds, like really take the strategic kind of possibilities to the next level, right? And exactly. I agree. You said it really well. I agree with you, man. Like regarding unkillables, like I'm not incredibly opposed to it. I would hate if they ever took it away from this. I don't think they ever will with the 50 round limit, but I would be strongly against that because people invested a lot in these champions. But if they have a brand new clan boss with no unkillable and it opens up more strategic opportunities for other champions and stuff like that, then I think that could be a good thing too. So I'm kind of with you, you know, but yeah, you they should hire you for some consulting, man, because that's some good ideas, some good ideas in the Hydra clan boss.
Hey, Cirilla,
I'm
available. Just holler at me.
Fly out to Ukraine, man. All right. Hey, man, we'll wrap here. You know, thank you so much again for coming on, sharing this content with us. I'll have all the resources that you guys need linked in the show notes below. Of course, with Deadwood Jedi's YouTube channel, his Twitch channel, where you guys can go harass him and ask him a million questions on his streams and stuff like that. How many times a stream do you get, why isn't my team working?
All the time, pretty much all the time.
And then you have to go through it and be like, okay, what's the speed on Apothecary? What's the speed? No, you're just like, go to my website. All right.
It's, you know, I have to tell you, those things I said to look out for, it's what I tell everybody.
It's the same
everybody
thing.
does it. Yeah, man. Masteries, true speeds. That's it. That's it. Every time.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on the channel. Any final thoughts, words, shout outs, anything like that?
No, man, just thank you so much for having me on. Always a pleasure. I always enjoy talking with you anyway, so it's always a great time. But yeah, man, it's great to have you here, and yeah, hopefully you guys come by, subscribe, check me out, check out the calculator, guys. You're gonna, you know, it can really change your clan boss life. So check that out. Come hang out. Catch me on stream. We have a good time. We joke around. It's like this.
Yeah, low key. I love it, man. Always love having you on. Let's do it sooner next time. Thanks again, guys. Again, go check out, go support him on Patreon. I'm going to become a Patreon right now as we end the video. And guys, go show him some love on YouTube as well. Thank you for watching all the way till the end. I appreciate you guys. And as always, take care, guys.